All right, folks, we got ourselves a nice little 16-pound packer brisket here that we picked up at Costco. It is prime beef, and we're going to take this thing and we're going to separate the point from the flat. We're going to trim it up real good. We're going to save all of the fat and trimmings, and the fat is going to get turned into tallow. The trimmings will turn into smash burgers. So I'm going to try to use up every little piece of this expensive brisket that I possibly can. Okay, so we got our 16.5-pound packer brisket here. So we've got the flat and we got the point over here. It does have a couple butcher cuts in it, but that's okay. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give this a good trimming, and then we're also going to separate the flat from the point. It's just me and my wife here at the house, and so if I were to cook all 16 pounds, we'd end up freezing most of it anyways. But my wife's favorite thing in barbecue is the burnt ends. So I'm going to get a nice little shape here to get started with. Okay. That's looking all right. We're going to turn this around. We're going to get a lot of this fat off. Like I said, we're going to be using as much of this brisket as we possibly can. So if I'm trimming a little extra here, that's okay, because whatever I trim off is going to either get turned into tallow or just some ground meat for some nice smash burgers. Sorry, I got a little winded there cutting that big hunk of fat off. So mainly what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to find that rib cap right here between the point and the flat, so that I can get those two separated apart nice, and then I can start worrying about my final trim stuff. So we're going to start slicing right down that fat cap that's between the two. And a good sharp knife is pretty key right here. I want to try to leave as much of the fat on the flat as we can. So we got a nice little fat cap to protect the meat as we smoke it. And we'll be smoking the flat tomorrow on the drum, and then we'll be smoking this point at some point in time on either one of the old smokers sitting out there. So if I get a little bit of that point meat here, that'll just be some nice meat for as we go. So get this over here. it's dancing around like crazy. Alright, so we got both of those two things separated there. And so let me set this one, the flat, up off to the side here for a minute, and let's take a look at this point here. Got some, trim this up nice and neat here as best as we can. Some might say that I'm doing too much trimming, but you know, realistically, everybody wants their brisket tallow. Everybody wants their good smash burgers. Last time I checked, lean ground beef, so most of the ground beef that we use for burgers or any other just regular basic recipe, most of the time our burger meat that we buy is 93.7. And some of you guys would be like, well, that's not very good for burgers, but I tell you what, it's a lot nicer to have some of that lean meat and enjoy a little bit of a healthy burger over something that might be extremely fatty, greasy, running down your arm. And sometimes you want that, but right now we're looking for lean meat. We want, as I'm sitting here carving the point, yeah. So since I'm going to smoke these separately, I'm going to try to get as much of this big gristly fat off the point as I possibly can. And then all this silver skin stuff, we're going to trim it off. That'll go in the burger pile. Got like this little weird end here. So let's throw this off in the burger pile. Okay. Then that's going to burn up more than likely in the smoker. So let's see here. Let's trim this off. Because it's only maybe a ½ inch thick. If I were to go to try to throw that in the smoker, it'd burn right up. So that becomes hamburger. The last brisket I did was a 20-pounder, and the point was quite a bit larger. That's all right. Get all this silvery skin off of here. Boy, and I thought my knife was sharp, but I'm not really enjoying the cut through here. Get the last little piece off of here. Woo! Alright, so we're going to leave it right about like that. A little fatty piece right there. And it ain't going to cook up very good. Alright, so there's our nice little point. And we'll take that bad boy right like that. And it'll go on the smoke for some burn ends, just about like that. But for right now, I'm going to set it off to the side because it'll probably get vacuum sealed again for some burn ends at a later date. So I'll set that in there. And then let's take a look at this flat. This is what I'm cooking tomorrow. So getting her trimmed up here for tomorrow's cook. And so clean up the top here. Yeah, it looks like that butcher had his heyday with this cut of meat. So things are tore, peeled off. No sharp edges as we go. Get a lot of the silvery skin off the top. Alright, that's looking pretty darn good there. Now let's cut that end nice and round. Let's cut off some of this dark oxidized meat on this end. Give it a little bit better shape. Alright, I'm liking that. Yeah, that's going to look nice and pretty right there. Alright, so let's flip it on over. And really, I don't do a whole heck of a lot of trimming on the back side here. I do like to leave about 1/4 of an inch worth of fat, but you know, realistically, fire's going to be underneath it, so I want to make sure that I don't do too much of this right here where I get too deep and get into stuff that's going to get burned up. So tag ends that are going to burn up here. All right, so there's our brisket for tomorrow. All trimmed up, ready to rock and roll right there. So I'm gonna put it on a pan, wash my hands up a little bit, and get the point, or the point all sealed back up again. Get my flat in the fridge, probably wrap it in some plastic. Take those 2 pieces of meat, take care of them, and then I got this big huge pan of goodness right here that's going to turn into some ground meat and some brisket tallow. So, all right. All right, time to turn this pile of brisket goodness into some ground beef and some beef tallow. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run through this pile, and I'm going to separate 2 piles. I'm going to have a fat pile and a meat pile, and I'm going to try to keep the meat pile as lean as I possibly can, because for me and my wife, the leaner the better. So that's all fat. And you guys can beat me up about my knife skills, but I am no trained chef whatsoever. You know, I look at this piece right here and I go, well, I would say that's a pretty good ratio for me of fat to meat. You can comment down in the bottom if you want. Let me know what you think. The very first few briskets I ever did, I took all of this goodness from these briskets, and just because I didn't have access to a nice meat grinder, or to a meat grinder, I would throw all this away. And the last time I bought a brisket, I went, you know, this is a lot of waste, you know. And I think my last brisket I paid roughly, I bet I paid at least $4.50, if not $5, due to COVID and yada 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 whatnot. And so I was like, man, that's just a lot of really good expensive meat to throw away. And so, needless to say, I went on that good old Amazon and I found me a grinder that I could use to take these things, these cuts of meat, and take like this stuff right here. And you know, you go online right now and Wagyu beef tallow, a gallon jug of it's costing you a ton of money, and that's all that is right there. Yeah, it's not Wagyu, but I tell you what, it makes some good tallow. And so, you know, the investment in that. Ooh, I gotta think for a second here so I don't cut myself. You know, that investment in that grinder is Gonna make it so that I don't throw all this stuff away. All right, here's that piece that people were probably screaming about when I was trimming this off the first time. And took this whole piece of point and I just lopped it right off the top of the, right off the end of the point. And it's gonna make some tasty burgers. There we go. We got probably at least enough meat there for a decent sized burger. Enough fat there to render off some goodness here. Can't fit all that big piece in the grinder all at one time, so. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and finish my way through this pile of meat here, and I'll see you back when it's done. Alright, so what I got here is all the lean trimmings off of that brisket, and I'll slide those over here. And this is the fat here. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to grab out the grinder here and I'm going to grind up both of these, and I'll start with the fat and I'll grind it out first. And the reason why I'm going to do that first is because then there will be a little bit of fat left back in the machine, and then as I go ahead and grind through, it'll push the rest of the stuff out.